Well, hello there. My name is HW, and thank you so much for listening to the Tone Junkie podcast, episode 34. And even experimenting again with the video version of the podcast, which those of you watching in the video version, or you just noticed the audio is different, my cleaning lady came this morning, and unbeknownst to me, I had to get out of the house, according to my wife. And so I had to vacate the premises, so it was get out. And I had on my schedule to do a Tone Junkie podcast this morning and a video edition. And I decided, you know what? I will not be stopped. We are practicing the video version of this podcast, and I'm trying to put this up and edit it and see what this is going to entail so I can fit it better into my schedule starting in the new year. So this month, or maybe starting now, but officially launching January 1, the official Tone Junkie podcast 2.0, except no substitutes. I want to thank everybody who went on iTunes, who went on Apple Podcast, and who left me reviews. This show had one review with like 5 stars and one review with like 3 stars. And then I asked people to go do it, and instantly I looked a day ago, and there was 19 reviews, tons of 5-star reviews. Man, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I enjoy talking. I really do. Hey, let's get this elephant out of the room for a minute. I lost my voice. You probably noticed I sound different. It just dawned on me that I've been sounding like this the last couple days, and y'all have been none the wiser. That's right. 3 years in Tennessee, and I started saying y'all. But I don't know. Does anyone ever know why they lost their voice? I have no pain in my throat, not a sore throat. I just started losing my voice. Now, I just started this keto diet because trying to drop a couple lbs, also trying to get my cholesterol in check. I have high cholesterol on both sides of my family, like really high. My grandmother gardens every day. She's out there. She's active in her 70s. Always had high cholesterol. I have an uncle who is a personal trainer in just an elite athlete shape for a while. Still had high cholesterol all through that thing. We have the genetic predisposition of high cholesterol. We really do. And even when we do the diet and exercise thing, it doesn't seem to help. But so I decided to get disciplined, and I decided I need to do something about this cholesterol because I'm 32 now. I got some kids, and you want to be alive. Hey, that's the reality of this, man. I noticed when I was in my 20s, we always just talked about all this BS stuff that you thought was important. You'd go to parties and you'd be like, yeah, I'm really just like working. This is what I want to be my career and stuff and all that stuff. You get to your 30s and you realize nobody in this world cares about you enough to really help you out or keep you down. I mean, other than your parents. But I feel like in my 30s, I came to the realization there's nobody stopping me if I want to devote my entire life to MMA and become an MMA fighter and win the UFC championship in whatever weight class at age 38, and then tell the story of how at age 30 or 32 or 31, I just decided I'm going to be champ of the world and I'm just going to train every single day. I think in your 30s, you figure out what success looks like. That anything you do and you do enough of it, you've only got effort and you've got talent, And who cares if you don't have that much talent to start out with? You can usually make it up with effort. Now, someone else might be better than you if they start out with a lot of talent and they put in that much effort. But usually, the people who have the most talent, unless they really have someone to teach them this lesson early on, they skate by on that talent. They don't learn hard work. It's usually the people who have a moderate aptitude, a moderate amount of talent, and they figure out hard work, really hard work. I'm talking 12, 16 hours a day, unrelenting hard work. I'm talking about the type of hard work that when it's 7:15 in the morning and your wife tells you, you better get out of the house because the cleaning lady's coming. And I say, but wait, I was going to do an episode of the Tone Junkie podcast before I left for work. And she says, I'm sorry, that's not happening. You're getting out of the house. I'm talking about the hard work that says, well then, I'm going to grab a field recorder and my iPhone and this pair of headphones I found in the back room of my in the storage closet of my office. And I'm going to do a Tone Junkie podcast video edition. By golly, I'm going to do it. Anyway, this keto diet, and jumping back, you know, in your 30s, you start thinking about things like cholesterol. Because you're like, well, probably had high cholesterol in my 20s. I've ignored that for 10 years. Ignoring it again for 10 years, that doesn't seem wise. That doesn't seem good. It's like, you know, you just get a brand new car, and they're like, change the oil after 3,000 miles. Somewhere around 4,500 miles, you're like, look, this was a brand new car. How much damage could I really be doing to it by stretching this out to 4,000? Plus, really, you don't even need to do it every 3,000, but that's what they tell you. And then if you go synthetic, you can go longer. But you know what I'm saying? You got to carry your car in the beginning so it lasts a long time later. But you don't feel the effects right away. The car's still brand new. But old HW ain't so brand new anymore. He's 32 years old. And it's time we focus a little more on health. Okay, enough about that. So I did start this diet, and my wife looked at me the other day, and she says, I could tell she was frustrated because she made a salad. We had this Friendsgiving. We're going to my friend's house across the street. He makes delicious food. He was a chef. He works with me here at this company here, this office that I'm in. And he made the most listen, if you've ever, I thought I knew what turkey tasted like. I thought I knew what chicken tasted like. Then he made it. And I realized how juicy it could be. It could be as juicy as beef. Oh. I went over, I ate a bunch of turkey. I couldn't have the sweet potatoes, couldn't have the mash, couldn't have the stuffing, couldn't have all this stuff. My wife made this big salad with, it was mixed green spinach and carrots and avocado, onions, and pomegranate seeds and goat cheese and some other stuff. And goat cheese. Oh, goat cheese is so delicious. Love goat cheese in my salads. But then she starts to go put this balsamic vinaigrette on, and I go, hey, wait a minute. I can't have sugar. Can we? Because this keto thing is all about 75% of your intake is supposed to be fat. About 20% protein, only about 5% carbs. And there's a whole bunch of science behind it. I don't want to get into it, but I know it seems crazy. I'm eating a lot of fat trying to lower my cholesterol, but I've read a ton of people online. I know it's all anecdotal, but I've read a ton of people online saying I had high cholesterol. I've done a lot of stuff, and I did this, and my cholesterol went down. So that's why I'm doing this. So like I said, 30 days we're going to do this, and then we're going to try it out. And then we're going to, I'm going to go have my blood checked. Okay, so lost my voice, went to my buddy's house. And I could tell my wife is frustrated with me because I was like, can you take some of the salad out for me first? Like, can I serve some of the salad? But she had made this very presentation-like salad, and the way we were doing it was everyone put all the food on the table. And, my buddy's a chef. He had made all this gorgeous food. Looks like a cooking book, And then we were taking pictures. So she didn't want to wreck the salad. She wants to dress it. I'm like, can people just dress it on there? She's like, I can tell I'm frustrating her. So I get her to just serve me the salad. We take the pictures. I serve some salad first, and then I put a little apple cider vinegar and some oil on there. That's my dressing. She goes for the balsamic vinaigrette. Now I later realized the balsamic vinaigrette I probably could have had it. It would be like the smallest cheat possible. It's almost okay to eat, but she looks at me and she goes, HW, you are, that's right, she calls me HW. HW, you're just extra right now. She's like, oh my God, HW, you are just extra right now. You are so extra, okay? I just can't, I'm going to go to the store right now. You are extra. I know what that means. For those of you who don't know what that means, right now there's this slang that when you call someone extra, when you're like, oh, you are just extra right now, it means you're too much. Like, you are just too much. You're too much right now. And so I'm like, okay, well, because of the diet and everything. She's like, just everything. She's like, you're HW, And then I just showed her this meme someone made. I forget who made her. I'd shout you out right now. I forget who it was. Was it Michael or was it? I forget who it was. I forget who it was specifically, but I took that meme and it was a picture of me and it said, "Hello there, my name is HW," or "Hello there, I'm HW," and you just read this in my voice. And I thought it was so hilarious. I downloaded it to my phone. I've been showing everybody. It really made my week. It really did. I got to go send a thank you message I got to go look back up who that was. It made my week. I've been showing everybody. And she's like, just with people making memes and this diet and you're just talking about, you're like, I can't have balsamic vinaigrette. You are just extra. And so you're too much. You're too much. It means you are just too much. But then I realized, I'm thinking about this and I'm going, okay, well, we don't want to be extra. I want to tone it down a little bit. I don't want to be extra. If my wife feels like I'm extra, that means I'm stressing her out. I'm being too much. Anyway. So then I started realizing, there's this other saying going around. And it's like, you call someone, the B word. It's a bad word. It's a B word. It means a female dog. And I hear people do this on like Twitter and Instagram and stuff. You are a basic beep. Oh, she's a basic beep. Oh, don't come look at me, basic beep, right? This is the thing, right? So I'm analyzing the culture here for a minute. I'm going, wait a minute. If you're extra, you're too much. That means too much. That's too much. Tone it down. All right? It's negative because it's excessive. Excessive. If you're basic, you are not fancy. You are not good. You're just basic. And that's what they mean by that. Basic. Like you are simple. You are not fancy. You are not good enough. So what I'm gathering here is that extra is too much. Basic is not enough. Well, where do I want to fall? What is the proper, sufficient adjective that people are using today? And I'm not really sure. I took to the bubblegum aisle of Walgreens to solve this question. And also just thought of some Tylenol and Advil stuff. I don't think you want to be extra strength. That seems more than extra. I don't think you want to be super basic. That means more basic or something, right? Do you want to be deluxe? I think so. Deluxe isn't extra, it's upgraded. I think you want to be the upgraded version of basic. It's not too much. Deluxe isn't necessarily more, it's higher quality. So I think you want to be today deluxe or maybe premium. Maybe if someone's like, you are just deluxe, I think that's a compliment. I'm really not sure. I need to ask someone. I'm going to try this on my wife. I don't want to be like, oh, you look so basic right now. She'll be like, that's an insult. And I'll be like, oh, my bad. And I don't want to be like, you are so extra right now. She'll be like, I'm not too much right now. I'll be like, okay. I'm going to try this. I'm going to just be like, that outfit is deluxe. In fact, I might adopt that. Because deluxe is better quality. Deluxe is like a premium offering. I don't know if it works to say premium as well. I feel like basic, deluxe, extra. That sounds like a spectrum that I could get behind. So I'm going to start using deluxe. Because people are using basic, people are using extra. I'm going to coin deluxe. These tones are deluxe. This hat, deluxe. This podcast, maybe deluxe. I don't know. Anyway, I went to Starbucks this morning, and they had, we're going to get the tone here in a minute. Went to Starbucks this morning, and they had a line that I've never seen. I thought the Paris riots Sorry, I'm trying not to pop the microphone because someone gave me the feedback. You know, someone gave me I told you about the guy who left me that comment on and I internalize, you know, all these comments. I really appreciate people who left positive feedback on the Tone Junkie podcast reviews. But the negative feedback helps. I mean, constructive criticism is invaluable. And by that, I mean very valuable. No, one guy put, you know, there's some audio problems, and I try to listen to different places. So that's why I'm using this field recorder, and I meant to bring a different mic head to put on the field recorder, but hopefully this is okay. And I'm trying not to pop the mic, and so I'm going to be conscious of that. And all in all, we're just bringing the podcast up in quality. And I really want to make it so, like, John or the Suze is sitting with me on half of these episodes at least. You know what I'm saying? Just sitting with me on, like, half of these episodes. I went to the Starbucks this morning, and the line was out the door. Out the door. Like, come on. Come on. I just turned around and walked away. I said, look, I got to get this podcast going. I got other stuff to do today, too. I got to knock this out. I got to get this going. I didn't even go get my coffee. I'm not even sure what coffee I can have now on keto. At home, I've been doing the butter in the coffee thing. It's terrible. But I just drink coffee black usually. Like, you know, I can do that. I enjoy it. Shout out to Worship Tutorials and Brian Wall. I gave up the Khalifa Farms. No more Khalifa Farms because a little too many carbohydrates for this new diet. Got on the Stoke Black Coffee, unsweetened. Stoke unsweetened black iced coffee. Oh, that's flavor. There's flavor in there. You might think, I don't like black coffee. I like to sweeten it. I like to put a little cream in it. That Stoke stuff, rich, deep, bold, beautiful. That's how HW describes himself every morning. And the coffee is very similar. Look, this is the Starbucks. I want to show you the Starbucks. I'm going to move all this stuff. If you're on the video edition of Starbucks, the Starbucks is that white building there. Can you see that white building behind the trees? On the corner of that white building is the Starbucks. And that's my view out there. For those of you who can't see, it's this historic, I work in this historic little downtown area of Franklin, Tennessee called 5 Points. We're just south of Nashville. And that's what we do. And anyway, we found this office. I literally, funny story, you know how I found this office? I actually found this office. I moved here, and I was charged with finding apartments for the 3 employees who were going to move out here and their families, and also finding office space. I couldn't find any office space. I was working with a person. We couldn't find anything that really worked. And then I just heard about downtown Franklin, came down here, went to that Starbucks, walked outside, saw a for lease sign in the suite upstairs across the street, and just straight up was like, we'll take it. We will take it. And we did take it. The line was so long at Starbucks, I don't know what to do. And the little mobile order thing, it spits out orders while I'm ordering because they have the little printer there. They showed me where it was. I've been talking to them about it. And they're aware of this podcast. Trust me. They are aware. Starbucks is aware of this podcast. And I'm impressed how many people are aware of this podcast lately. It seems to be on the up. And I've never advertised it or anything. But yeah, it's... let me tell you, we just need to get a solution here for this mobile ordering thing. It's really crazy. I can't even get coffee in the morning anymore and do a podcast in a timely fashion. So I'm gonna go back later and get some coffee. But let's get into tone here for a minute, shall we? Let's get into tone here for a minute. What is basic tone? What is deluxe tone? What is extra tone? And what is that in the gear world? Because I think we have those definitions, actually. And I want to be the deluxe. That's what I want to be. I don't want to be basic. I don't want to be extra. I want to be deluxe. That's why I'm going to start this thing. I'm going to start using this deluxe word. And we're going to do something around deluxe tone. The deluxe. Oh, deluxe. I like that word. It sounds fancy. Deluxe. Sounds luxurious. Deluxurious. Anyone got a patent on that? Can't patent a word, HW. It's a trademark, fool. Anyway, let me focus here because I realize I've been rambling for the last couple minutes. Not since the beginning. I had things to tell you. what would it mean to have deluxe tone? And isn't that where you want to be? See, I look at some of these guys online, right? And I go like on the gear page. I used to go on Harmony Central, but that was many, many moons ago. I go on the Kemper forum. I go on Gear Talk P&W. And sometimes I see these guys, you know what an extra board looks like? Like, let's talk about extra boards. Boards that, oh my God, that board is just extra. I can't even stand it right now. That board is so extra, I need to leave. I need to leave. That board is extra. You know what the extra board is right now? The extra board is like, hey, and no hate if you listen to this podcast. I don't know what the dude's name was. There's a dude on like Gear Talk B&W who built like an all black pedal board. And I thought, like, I mean, that's cool. But, like, there's no way that you had all the pedals that were black. Like, you either paid more for a lot of those black pedals, like the blackout version, and then you really limited your choices to just things that were blackout versions or that were all black. That was a little much. I don't feel the need to color match. Now, more power to the guy. I'm obsessive about stuff. So maybe I'm extra in that way. But I don't need to color code my board. Then, you see these guys, they just have ridiculous setups. Like I watched Stu G. Stu G and me were working on some profiles recently. And he was showing me a setup. And Stu G had, I'm going to go from memory here on what he had going. Stu G had a gig rig controller that Daniel had built him and set up for him and stuff. Stu G also had a compressor. He said, this is my compressor. It's my on all the time compressor. It's my JHS Pulp and Peel. Then he said, I have a Jackson Audio Prism. I really like what it does. And sometimes when he said before he was traveling with Kempers, he said he would use it to EQ the amp. He would get the amp going, then he would turn that on, add more body, add more high end. There you go. The next thing he had was his main drive. What was his main drive? Oh my gosh. Was it a Morning Glory? No. Oh my gosh, I can't even remember. Anyway, he had those things, and he was pushing the amp. And then from there, he had it was a third power overdrive. He had the third power pedal. And it sounded great. Then he had his JHS Kilt. Then he had, I think he had some type of a trem or chorus pedal. I don't remember which one off the top of my head. But then he had a couple H9s. And that was pretty much it on the board. And he had it all MIDI hooked up. He was changing he had all sorts of H9 sounds all queued up there. He had all sorts of things dialed in and going. It wasn't too much. The guy had a compressor. He had what for this case, I won't call the Prism a compressor. I'll call it like a little boost. He had a compressor, a boost, 2 overdrives. Oh, he had a third overdrive. What was it? I can't remember. Anyway. Oh, well, he had both sides he had 2 sides of his kilt. So we'll call it 2 to 3 overdrives. He had a little modulation pedal, and then he had his H9s doing delays, reverbs, modulation, all sorts of stuff. And it was deluxe. I'll call that deluxe. It wasn't extra. That's my point. I see guys, they go, well, look, I got the Big Sky, I got the Strifecta, I got the Big Sky, the Timeline, the Mobius. Then I went and got this, but then I had to have on top of that the Chase Audio Warble one, that warbly one, the warped vinyl. Then I had to have the new one. Then I have this separate analog delay because I need a real analog delay on my board too. Then I had these 4 drives. Here's my first stage drive, my second stage drive, my third stage drive, my fourth stage drive. Then I have this EQ. I have this drive that I just used with my Telly. I've got this thing doing this. I've got this thing over here. I've got this volume pedal. This blah, blah, blah does this and that. I got this whammy for this. I got that. And it's extra. It's so much. I found when I had too many pedals, it took away from my creativity because I didn't use the pedals to their full ability. I actually limited the use of each pedal by having too many. So it was interesting. It actually pushed me creatively to have less pedals, to go, okay. And here's my thing. A lot of people have pedals on their board that they go, and I respect this. I don't think this is bad. They go, well, this drive sounds great for neck pickups. You know, you go to that neck pickup sound, then I use this drive here. I think that's cool. One of the things I do is I rarely do that. Or let me say this, I need to have 2 drives on my board if I'm going to do drives that I feel work for all the positions of my guitar, that just give me more gain. One of those is going to be a tube screamer or a clon, because it does a thing on any pickup position. And the other one's going to be something like a King of Tone or an OCD or something, maybe a Timmy, maybe a bluesbreaker style drive, or something like the Morning Glory. That would be bluesbreaker-esque, like the Black Box 2. Great bluesbreaker style drive there. I got a video coming out of the Black Box later this week. That guy's been waiting on me for months, so I apologize to Josh at Snouse for that. But we're going to get that going really, really soon. Later this week, I'm going to put that out. And, in a nutshell, I got to have some overdrives that just work all the way. But some guys really, they expand their overdrive selection to have ones that, I really love this with a humbucker on the bridge. Gives me that AC/DC sound, or really rockin' sound. And then I have this. I've got the tube screamer set up over here for SRV stuff or that. I like stuff that works with everything. And that is limiting to me in the other way, and that sometimes I don't get the more specialized sounds. But right now I've got stuff that works for me. And I think that's why I love P90s. Excuse me. I could edit that out, but I won't. That sounded like a bad Batman impression. Anyway, I think those guys who are extra, I just see way too much in the way of switching, way too much in the way of pedals. And I just look at it and I'm like, bro, that's too much. And then sometimes I find the guys who play those pedal boards, sometimes I then go watch, and I'm not going to call it any makers. I'm just going to say there are some guitars on the market that are way overpriced. I own 1 or 2. Honestly, my custom shop Strat, for what it is on paper, it's overpriced. Now, it's gold sparkle. I don't see many of those. And it's got so much freaking mojo. I can't explain. Because if you know about how the custom shop makes instruments, you know how special they are. You know about... it has the dual mag pickups, and it's just tremendous. That guitar feels like a vintage Strat someone made last year. It really does. It just got that mojo behind it, and I love that. I love that. What it does really well, but it doesn't do a lot of things. It does a lot of Strat things and nothing else. But sometimes I notice these guys either play one of 2 things. If they got these extra boards, and their boards are just so extra, like over the top, bro, you don't need all that. Bro, you're playing a 1.5 little bassed riff here on a Sunday morning, and the sound guy's got you turned down, and you got more in pedals than people have in their first apartments. No, I don't know. Then you got, sometimes I notice they're like, and I just play this Fender Mexican-made Telly. And there ain't nothing wrong with a Fender Telly. There ain't nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. It's just that it does seem a little lopsided to have $3,000 or $4,000 on your pedal board, not just your amp, not with your amp, just on your pedal board, and then be playing a $600 guitar. I don't know. That seems a little funny to me. But what do I know? Then you got these guys who are basic. And I got to tell you, some of these guys are great players who are basic, but sometimes it's like, dude, you need to step that up. Like, you ever see the guy who comes in and he's got the Digitech Bad Monkey, and then he's got like a Boss BD2, the Blues Driver 2. And he's like, yeah, and he's never heard of anything else. You know what I mean? He's like, yeah, I had that Boss Tube Screamer for a while. And you're like, what? Excuse me? Boss doesn't make a Tube Screamer, sir. They make an SD1. It's similar to the Tube Screamer, but it has asymmetrical clipping. And it's yellow. And it has a little more gain. And I think there's less clean mix. There might be none. How dare you? And, he's like, that guy, he's like, oh, yeah, my buddy used to have this this pedal. It was really cool. It was a long time ago. It was called a Big Moose. And you're like, do you mean a big muff? Yeah. He had it in a wooden box and had Russian writing on the back. Big Moose. And you're just like, bro, I see you got some chops. I see you know your stuff. What are you playing? Oh, you're playing a Korean-made Squire for the last 40 years? Bro, you're basic. You need to step it up. Those chops deserve better tone. You want to play that Squire? I get it. That's fine. Let's get those pickups upgraded, right? I'm not slamming on Squire if you're just starting out and that's the thing you can get. I'm not slamming on Squire if you got no money and that's what you could afford. I'm just saying after that long, you could have saved up for a pickup replacement and you could get on the net and read about it. Tone is serious business, y'all. Who are these people? I meet occasionally these guys and they're good players. They're just like, yeah, I got that Digitech Bad Monkey in this. And I'm kind of like, you're, in my head, I'm like, your tone could be a lot better, bro. Like I listen, I'm like, you're a good player. Your guitar sounds like garbage. I don't know. Or just, I think those are the people who are basic. I think for me though, like I don't want, like that's a thing. I think this whole gear thing and buying and selling gear and having a lot of pedals, it's fun and it's entertaining. But I don't want to be the guy. One time I heard somebody say this, and they were like, "Well, I really consider myself more of a pedal player. I really like to like sculpt my tone and create landscapes." And I felt like, I don't know what that's about. That's a crutch. That means you haven't learned your instrument enough. Now look, I'm not the greatest player in the world, but actually I think I play in the praise and worship style very well, in my opinion. I think I play well because I make sure my tone fits, and when I'm one guitar player, I really am asking myself, what is the ear candy parts, and what parts do I have to go more rhythmic because I'm the only guitar player today? And then in the other, how can I serve the song? I mean, to me, I want to be a musician before I'm a guitar player, if that makes sense. And sometimes that means on projects. Like I just did this record and I'm listening back to it. There are parts where I stepped out and said, this is going to be a guitar heavy little part. But there were so many parts where we layered rhythm guitars and octave guitar. And I love rock music and it makes it rock. It made it rock out. And I could have been more meadly with the solos. We could have been more intricate. We could have put in a harmony part. We could have done all sorts of stuff. But there was a lot of times where it was just like, the right thing sounds like right here for an electric guitar to come in playing just simple triads on the ones on this first chorus. And yes, we have a main riff that's coming, and it doesn't, and as the whole band drops out on this first chorus, like, that Hillsong thing, this is the standard. This is a very typical arrangement they do right now in praise and worship music and Christian music. You're building up, you have like a rhythmic thing going on, the guitars are in, they're doing riffs, and then first chorus, everybody lays out, except for the vocals, right? And like some pad. Everybody lays out. It makes the first chorus, it's you'd think you'd be building this first chorus. You actually build, and then everybody lays out on this first chorus. You see it all the time. It's in a bunch of Bethel stuff. It's in a bunch of everything. Those are the instances where it's like you could leave guitars in. You could be guitar heavy at those points, or you could really lean back. And you could, as a musician, go, I want to play the dynamics of the band. I want to play that. I'm going to play the dynamics of the band. I'm not just going to play my guitar part because it's ear candy and it's great. I want to make sure that the best parts are impactful and come in. I was one guitar player. There's a song on this record coming up called You Have Never. And there's this great riff at the chord that kind of follows the chords and hints at the melody. There's this beautiful female vocal singing. And it's this great, I would call it a very Bethel-esque little part. And it's using sixths. and I'll do a video on it showing all the parts that we wrote and all the parts that we wrote and recorded for that record. I'm going to go through them all and just tell you how I approach worship music, what I think it means to play to the dynamics of a song, what I think it means to play a part, to be a musician first, not a guitar player first. But we put in this part. It's a very Bethel-esque sort of sixth part where it's a slide note, slide note, slide note, slide note, and it's really complementary to the melody because it's a slide on the pickup note, slide on the pickup note, slide as a pickup note. So you're hitting the one let's see, you're hitting the one on the first chord on the 3. So the pickup note is a slide from 4th to 5th note of the scale, the 4th to the 5th. Then we hit the 3rd of that first chord, that D. Next one, I'm sliding from the 4th to 5th of the next chord, hit the 3rd. Next one, same thing, 4th to 5th there, and then there's a slight resolve in that on the last chord. Let me do this math for a minute, and then we're sliding to the 5 of the scale, and hitting the 2, which kind of makes a suspended sound, but that's suspended in the key of D. There would be, hang on, I know this is boring to listen to, but we're playing a G chord, so we're playing the 4 chord, and I'm sliding to the 5th of the first of the 1 chord, which puts me at an A. It's a 2 there, and then a 2 as an A and an E, I think. Anyway, it works. It works with the it works with the song, you know, and it kind of gives a slight resolution to that last chord. It's following it's very chordal. It's very chordal as it goes up, and the timing helps. It's in the pocket. See, it's chordal in that tonality-wise, tonally, that's a better way to say that, tonally, it's working with the chords. But the timing, I'm actually sliding up on the pickup note to get to one of those tonalities, and then I'm hitting the 3rd of each chord on the 1. And the reason I'm doing that pickup note there is because if you could hear the vocal, you realize I'm staying in between the vocal. I'm playing in between the vocal as to not compete with them. It's an interesting thing. It's something you could be conscious of. Now, listen, a lot of times you're playing rhythmically, you're going on the 1, but now then I have another song where, look, we had to mix the part way back and it's way reverby because it's the little part is almost on top of the vocal on purpose. I mean, it starts on the second beat, so it's a little different kind of feel. But you could do whatever you want. It's music, right? There's no rules. But my point in saying all that is, what was my point? It's a fine line between getting too involved in your sound and your tone and going, I want to serve the song. I always want to serve the song. I think if you start focusing on, I'm more of a pedal guy, or I really create more landscapes, you know, I'll just tell you my thing. I can be a little rock and roll in my playing. Like sometimes I notice I'm a little more aggressive with the gain and with the power chords and the build-ups. I really go there. I really like to go there. I really like to throw in a lot of sort of like rock riffs if I have like a solo, or if I have like not a solo, I don't really take solos in worship music, but you know, sometimes you go to a breakdown and you might go back to the melody, but then you can, as a variation, you might play the melody one time, you know, and then you might do some variations and really get some, you know, aggressive sort of bends or something, you know, and do some, you know, some of that, yeah, I don't know, those unison bends, you know, that can get a little dissonant, you know. I lean towards that stuff. I lean towards a little more of an aggressive sound. That's just the music I like. That's the thing you know, it's that youthful angst is still in me. But I've always thought, as a guitar player and as someone with gear, I want to be more like The Edge than I want to be Joe Satch. You know what I mean? I want to serve the song. I want to really, serve the song is a big deal. We don't talk about that enough. Serving the song. What does a song need? There's also, like this weekend I was playing, And we were playing that part I was talking about. And I realized in playing that part, well, look, at the very first chorus, I come in with this little pickup note slide riff using these sixths. And I go, well, okay. And so that worked. And so I played it. And then I played it kind of more aggressively the second time and third time. But when we went to a big bridge, my part changed. When I come back to that part is hard for one guitar to play and add aggression to it. So I just started playing the part and then filling in other notes around the chord so that I could have a more rhythmic arpeggiating thing to bring up the volume. It's not what I did on the record, because on the record we had a rhythm guitar and we had that guitar. But when it's one person, I did the slide up hit note on the one, and then I kept picking, and then I would play that whole chord in like a little arpeggio and maybe add some little things just to give it more energy, because the band was up and we've been somewhere, and I don't want to come back down to like where I was at choruses before the bridge. We've been through a bridge. We're back to a chorus. You know, the purposes of lyric and song. You know, I know a good bridge. I know how you write a good bridge. It's a songwriting tip. Here's a good bridge. The chorus is meant to be the truth, the central theme. It's the North Star. Everything in the song should point towards what the North Star is saying. So, I'll give you a hint. This song in the chorus says, you have never left us. You have never left us, and you never will. That's the chorus. Everything needs to point to that. So the verses say like, Jehovah Jireh, you unclench my fist. What does that mean? How does that tie in? Well, it means you are, Jehovah Jireh means great provider, God, great provider. And you unclench my fist, meaning I am not holding on. It is not my effort. I'm not holding on. I'm not in struggle. You unclench my fist, I relaxed, because I trust in your providence. Why? How does that relate? We trust. This is okay. I'm sorry if you're not into praise and worship music or Christian thought. The idea, but this is a songwriting lesson. The idea, because this is an original song my church wrote, and I've been playing it since it kind of got introduced and stuff. The idea in those lyrics is, Jehovah Jireh, you unclench my fist. You're not alone. God doesn't leave us alone. So there we go. We have this trust in him, and we've used an old world sort of other language term, Jehovah Jireh, to say, my provider, you unclench my fist. That goes back to the Judaic tradition of calling him that. Anyway. Whether you're Christian or not, just hear the songwriting lesson in this. And then it says, through flood and fire, you are in the midst. Jehovah Jireh, my provider, you unclench my fist. Through flood and fire, you are in the midst. God's always there. He's always with you. That's the setup for the North Star of the song. You have never left us. You have never left us, and you never will. That is a logical, that's what they call internal logic in a song. You could literally read the words, and it reads like poetry. The melody isn't hiding anything. Jehovah Jireh, my provider, you unclench my fist. Through flood and fire, you are in the midst. You have never left us. It makes sense. You've walked someone literally up to the top of the mountain, and the top of the mountain is the chorus. That's it. The chorus is the place you arrive at. Song 2 is, now we're going to take another, verse 2. Verse 2 is, now we're going to take another mountain pass. We're going to see some stuff that helps us appreciate the beauty of the mountain, and we're going to return back to the top of the mountain. It doesn't start you at the bottom of the mountain again. That's why there's something called the second verse curse. A lot of people in songwriting. Why are we talking about songwriting? I don't know. I just decided to right now. Maybe because it works with tone. It has to do with tone, actually. I really feel I'm a better guitar player because I started writing music and because I started studying songwriting and because I got around people in Nashville who study and write songs. And I started watching their very intentional approach about rhythmic prosody, about internal linear logic, and about these sorts of things. And it helped me go, then what are the most important parts of the song and how can I frame it with my guitar playing? That is a really interesting topic, the one that I want to explore a lot more in content. But that whole thing, I can't remember the second verse of that song off the top of my head, or I'd read it to you. But the point of the second verse is to go, we can't go back to the bottom of the mountain. We've just been on a journey. We've just started somewhere and brought the listener up to the top of the mountain, up to the highest point. The strongest declaration, no matter what that is. It could be, 3 more beers and she'll be Britney Spears, a little more Cuervo, she'll be Christina Aguilera. You know what I mean? In that song, that's a country artist, a buddy of mine named Phil Claypool. Is 3 more beers, she'll be Britney Spears. A little more Cuervo, she'll be Christina Aguilera. It's like he's drunk. He can't say Aguilera, but it also works for the rhyme scheme. And that thing, it's about, nothing's going on for me tonight. I'm just going to drink a little more, and that lady at the bar is going to seem better. That's the highest thought of song. It's a song about partying. It's a song about whiskey. Only on the Tone Junkie podcast do we talk about a worship song that says, God is your provider, he will never abandon you. And then we talk about getting a little more drunk so that the girl at the bar who you do have a shot with tonight looks better than she does when you're sober. Hey, I'm just analyzing music here for a minute. That's where you go. So then you come back down. You don't start back at the beginning. You don't need to introduce the themes. The listener has already heard what the song's about. That applies to songwriting too. My buddy Nick, who I played on this record with, he really taught me some things when we were recording this record, because he kept adding. He was like, throw in this little line. And I would go at like a little turnaround. I go, it was something reminiscent of the melody. He'd be like, it's nice just to revisit that thought. It's nice to revisit that melodic thought because we introduced it at the intro, and we're not going to get to it again until the second chorus. So let's just, in this little turnaround, let's just hint back at it. Even if it was hinting back at a piano melody that was played in the beginning, because maybe a song starts with the piano and it played a little melody, and then in the verse and then in the turnaround, even when the piano wasn't playing it, you could hint at that same melody. And then if it's not there at the first chorus, or it's coming later in the song, you could hint at melodic ideas. Anyway, verse 2, you're going on another little mountain pass. You're learning more about the mountain. But we've already been to the top mountain, so don't bring people back down. Keep going with the theme. Maybe in the Jehovah Jireh song, you don't need to say, you and Clench My Fist. You could give more examples of those provident ideas. Now the bridge. Here's the beauty of a well-written bridge. The real beauty. And by the way, if you want to know, bridges are modern musical inventions. We haven't had bridges for very long in modern music. Maybe they're 200 years old, maybe. B sections, they start out really like a B section. Music was not progressive enough. We later in the 70s got into progressive music where there's 4 bridges. Everything's just about, it's not even called bridges, it's just these different sections of the song that are all mashed together to form progressive music. Jazz really pushed on that after the bebop era of the 40s. Then you get Miles Davis, you get Herbie Hancock, you get Charlie Parker. You get later Charlie Parker, you get John Coltrane, really. And they're doing the stuff around progressive jazz and stuff. You get John McLaughlin, who played on the big Miles Davis record, and then you get him going on doing the Mahavishnu Orchestra, and you really get some progressive jazz stuff. Check out the Mahavishnu Orchestra. John McLaughlin has some beautiful guitar playing and beautiful progressive arrangement. stellar dude. He later, John McLaughlin, if you've ever looked, he later was doing a bunch of classical stuff when he got to be an older man with Paco de Lucia and Al Di Meola. And you could just see that's a musician. That guy serves the song, serves the everything. You want to see another guy who serves a song? Miles Davis was maybe the greatest trumpet player at the time he was around. Maybe he still is, I don't know. Depends on your thing. You know, people might say Dizzy Gillespie was the best trumpet player. People might say other people, I don't know. It depends. If you're into bebop, Dizzy Gillespie is one of the best. Miles Davis, though, is by far one of the most influential musicians of the past 100 years. But go listen to his, what's it called? Something like jazz or blue? It's not blue like jazz. Why am I saying that? I forget the name of his record. Anyway, he has the album that put him on the map. And then after that, go look up his record, Impressions of Spain. He married a Spanish woman and moved to Spain and listened to the music. And then he said, I'm going to do this music. And Miles Davis, the greatest jazz trumpet player of that time for sure, the most influential, he makes a Spanish trumpet record. And it's awesome. It's awesome. Sorry. It's awesome because he serves the song. He serves the style. He submits himself to the song. I think so much of being a great guitar player, a really great guitar player, in the way that I want to be, in the way that I serve the song, in the way that I lend my parts, is one about, I love cool guitar things, I love that, and trying these techniques. But two, I really think it's about serving the song, submitting yourself to a style. Submitting yourself to a style. There's something in that. And then, well, you know, that's enough talk. Listen, the point of the bridge, here's what I was going to say, because bridges are nearly impossible to get a great bridge, and when you get one, it's stellar. And then a lot of bridges are just good. A great bridge, when you climb that mountain, first verse climbs the mountain, we get to the top of the mountain. Second verse, we go on some mountain pass that shows us more about the mountain. And then when we get back to the top mountain, there we are, we're at the mountain again. The bridge is designed to give us, I'm talking about songwriting here for a minute, lyrically, to give us a new idea or a new truth, so that when we come back to the chorus, we understand whatever the chorus said in a new way. Let me repeat that. The bridge's job is to take us somewhere else, tell us something, so that when we come back to the chorus, we see that chorus message in a new light. So let me give you this. Jehovah Jireh, you unclench my fist. Through the flood and fire, you are in the midst. That is written from the perspective of someone who is what? What's the perspective of that person? It might be a person who hasn't won yet. They don't sound particularly triumphant. They don't sound defeated, but there's not a voice of triumph or victory because they're walking up the mountain. They haven't gotten to the truth yet. The truth of the chorus, the North Star, the main idea. But the bridge in that song goes like this. Remember the chorus? You have never left us. You have never left us, and you never will. The bridge goes, I can't even remember all the bridge lyrics, but it starts with, you go before us, you come behind us, you something. You go before us, you come behind us. I can't even remember the lyrics. I think it says, nothing can stop you. You go before us, you come behind us. None can stop you. The point is, it introduces the idea of triumph. See, the first one is God is with you in the tragedy. But then after the bridge, it's telling you we go to a place of triumph. And when we come back, the words, you have never left us, they no longer just mean you're always with me even when I can't feel you. You're always with me in the darkest times. You're with me in the storm. You're with me in all those things. You're always with me when I'm down. Now it also means You're always with me in my victory. You're always with me in my triumph, and you even help bring the victory, or you do bring the victory. You help me overcome, or you are the one who's overcoming. I'm just along for the ride. I'm not trying to be theological here. I know not everyone is a Christian who listens to this podcast, but I'm just using a song that I recently recorded. That was the style of the song. And so melodically, I'm always thinking how to stay away from the vocal, tonally how to stay away from the vocal, how to not compete with it, but how to add to it, how to accentuate it, how to frame it. Great guitar playing, I think, is about framing pieces of the song. I think great music frames the point of the song. It frames the melody. Sometimes I play along with that melody. Sometimes I hint at that melody. Sometimes I harmonize it with that melody. I borrow from the melody. I support the melody. Sometimes I have my own melody, my own melodic idea. That's maybe an intro that, the singer never sings that line. So, and I think tonally with gear, for me, the Kemper is straight up deluxe. It can do so much. It's not basic in that it's not too little. I'm not giving my gear enough attention by just playing a Kemper. It has some limitations for sure, but being able to craft these different sounds and bring them in, it helps me have that deluxe tone. I think deluxe tone is what we're all after. Deluxe tone is it. I've been HW. I sincerely hope you have enjoyed this episode of the Tone Junkie podcast. Thank you so much. As always, just a reminder, if you enjoy the podcast and you haven't already, thank you to everybody who has, but go ahead and help me out. Leave a message on iTunes. And you know what I want to do? We're going to start doing these podcasts 2 and 3 times a week with guests in a studio that's built to be a podcast studio. That's going to make doing these podcasts very easy for me. And it's going to make editing a cinch. And I'm going to be able to get these up. And I hope to be able to be doing live versions eventually. So let me say this. This podcast may get sponsors in the future. But here's what I'm going to do. It's not going to be dumb sponsors. Here's what I mean by that. You know who might sponsor this podcast? The new Tone Junkie pack. I might remind you of it at the beginning and close of a thing. Or it's going to be something like this. Here's an example. I haven't talked to these people or anything. But it might be at the end of a podcast like this, or at the beginning, it might be like, hey guys, I want you to know that Solenoid pedals, Solenoid cables, has these new products for the Kemper. They make looms for the Kemper, and they have a special 25% off deal for Tone Junkie listeners. I haven't worked out that deal yet. I'm going to go reach out to those guys because I think they make a great product, and I'd love to support them. And so I want to do it. But I want to bring sponsors that are maybe offering something to the community, Who's got a discount on strings right now? Who's got a discount on whatever, and maybe save some money? Because I think it would be great if we could know, especially like Black Friday, Mission, I apologize to Mission. I didn't shout it out, but they had let me know, hey, we're going to be doing a sale on Black Friday. Let people know. Maybe you want to get a pedal or something. I'm not trying to pressure people and make this about commercials, but I think there is a place for if someone has a new product out and it's related to the Kemper, related to what Tone Junkie does, I think there's a place to go, hey, there's some exclusive thing. Now, I'm not going to inundate you with, hey guys, just yesterday, Tone Junkie just released another pack. Go buy the new pack. Go buy the new pack. I talk about the new pack sometimes. People are into that. If you're not, you're not. But I'm not going to ram it down your throat. I want the podcast to be a place people just listen and hang out, do their thing. And all right, there we go. In the words of the great Adam Carolla, mahalo. In the words of the great Howard Stern, hello there. Hey now. And in the words of HW, deluxe.